pay for it, fly that flag proudly. All right. Well, with no further ado, if I could have Mr. Travis Payton come up. I'm not even letting him to the mic. You see, I'm trying to cut him off. Trying to cut him off at the mic. No, I want to introduce Travis as not just our mayor of our city, but a personal friend, a person who's been vested in this community for as long as I can remember. If you've had kids go through junior high here in Hanford, they've probably had him as a teacher. Wonderful man, a Christian man, loves God, and fights for the unborn. And that immediately just puts him right up. I just love this man. So anyway, with no further ado, he'll present. He will have as long as he needs. He's the only presenter tonight. So save your questions to the end. He will present as long as he needs to. When he's finished, he will sit back. I'll run the mic. If anybody wants a question, just raise your hand. We would like you to ask your question into the mic just so the people online can hear it. That's the only reason. All right? No further ado, Travis, this podium is yours. Thank you. If you need anything, give me a holler.
It seems... Yep, right there. Perfect. Testing. It seems like my classroom where everybody doesn't want to sit in the front row. They kind of avoid it and they want to be in the back. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And also, for those on social media, I appreciate you tuning into this live feed. Also, if you have questions on social media, go ahead and type it in the comments, and then we will ask those questions for you, answer those questions for you as well. In our prayer this evening, we talked about, Mr. Darpley talked about discernment, and I'm here not to persuade anybody. I'm not here to say, yes, you need to vote no for this, or you need to vote yes for this. I'm just providing you the information. I am an educator. I've been an educator for 29 years in a math class. So this might be a math lesson in a sense, and I might get a little numbery, but I think, numbers don't lie. And it's so important for us to be a voter that's an educated voter. And so I'm going to present this information to you. Apologize, I'm a little tongue-tied right now. So next we have, what is Measure H? And this is if Measure H is approved by the voters. It's a 50% plus one vote. Measure H will address Hanford's growing needs by providing necessary funding for essential services, including police, fire, streets, parks, as well as other general services. And we're going to break each one of those down so you know how much is going to public safety, how much is going to roads, parks, etc. We're going to show you how this process got started, and we'll go from there. First and foremost is education. So I want you to be informed. So follow us on social media, on Instagram if you're not, on Facebook, Twitter. We also, I don't know if you know, we have a YouTube channel for the city of Hanford. And so everything that the meetings, revenue measure information is all on our YouTube channel. And another way, just grab your phones. You could go ahead and scan this QR code. It takes you directly to the City of Hanford Revenue Measure site, where you will see all of the files, the expenditure plans, all the information that you need to make a decision. So this is for those that are on social media, it's hanford.city, and in the search engine you just put revenue measure, and it's the first thing that pops up, and it will take you directly to this page. So we want to give you that information as well. Here's a little bit of my expectations and philosophies. I'm not a fan of taxes, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a fan of taxes. I see why we have to have taxes, but I really just don't, I'm just not a fan. Tonight I just want to present the facts. I'm not trying to sway, I just go straight down the line. First of all, it's an honor to serve as mayor of the city. It's a tremendous honor, and I just want to be as honest and as transparent as possible, and it's very important to me. Questions that people ask, when is a good time to put a revenue measure on the ballot? And there's never a good time. Never a good time. But the council felt that we didn't want to make the decision. We're going to allow the people to make the decision. And it's up to everybody has different situations and, from different parts of your life that you are going to have to just make that decision for yourself and your family. And so this is, it's out there. This is our third attempt for the city of Hanford on a revenue measure. And I had two non-negotiables. When I was asked before actually becoming mayor and during the campaign, would I support? And I said there's two non-negotiables. One, in the past, I heard, and I remember I was, my beginning of my teaching career, and Measure S came about, Measure K came about, and I just said, you know what, what's the plan? What's the plan? And it's very important. I felt like there needed to be an expenditure plan. We need to show the people what they're getting for their money. We need to show them what we are going to be spending this revenue, extra revenue on. Two, we need to have an oversight committee. We need citizens to be an oversight committee to make sure that we say what we mean and we mean what we say, and we show how those funds are being spent. And I'm going to be here to answer questions. And so that's just where I'm coming from. The city of Hanford has two major, here comes the math, okay? Has two major revenue sources. One is property taxes and one is sales tax. So when we look at property taxes, we have a breakdown. The past years, we get about $5.5 million to probably $6.5 million in revenue from property taxes. That's only 6%. 94% of our property taxes goes elsewhere besides the city of Hanford's budget. It doesn't go into the general plan. Only that small portion of 6%. This is from the county office website, and it shows the breakdown of where our property taxes go. There is going to be other ballot measures, Measure U from Hanford Elementary School District, and a couple other bonds that are going to be on the ballot as well. Plus, we have miscellaneous funds and grants that we apply for, and hopefully we can get. So we see that the pot of money is only so big, and the pot of money that we get, we have to make sure that we appropriate it to make sure that we have a strong public safety, our roads, etc. Refuge is something different than not in the general fund. The second major source is our sales tax. Here are the top 25 sales tax generators for the city of Hanford. The top 25. These individuals, I don't even know. We're not allowed to just find out who's the number one out of privacy and all that stuff. So I don't even know who the number one is. I can make an assumption, but I can make an assumption, but you'd be surprised. Let me just put it that way. From what I've been told, I thought that was, I wanted to put that visual out there for you. So of all of the sales tax that we receive, Hanford over the last 2-year budget cycle collected approximately $270 million in sales tax revenue just from the city of Hanford. We had last year we had 1.1 million visitors come to Hanford. It could have been the same person, but they're coming in, they're spending money, and they're leaving, they could be, multiple trips, but we have had 1.1 million people come in, spend money, and then go outside the city of Hanford. We have the GIS data that can give us that information. But we collected $270 million, but where does that money go? If you look at the circle graph, the pie graph up here, of the 7.25% that was collected, 6.25% went to the state of California. 0.05% went to the county because we had county islands in our city, so we get allocated some of the sales tax to the county, and we operate our city budget for under 1%, 0.95%. So if we look at $100, you could do the math of how much we really are. It's less than those $9.50. Let's just put it, or less than that. I'm not even doing my math right now. So here we go. Let's look at the revenue budget. The green bar graph is the sales tax collected. In fiscal year 22-23, the state gave us $16.5 million of that $270 million. And in fiscal year 23-24, they gave us $15.5 million. Our revenue went down $1 million went down $1 million. So you look at what Sacramento gets, $238 million, or 86.2% of every dollar that is collected in sales tax revenue, they are getting 86.2% of that money. Just let that sink in. How much? And then they come back and say, hey, apply for grants. We'll get you a fire truck. You know, the politician, we got a fire truck from Senator Hurtado's office. And like, you get a truck, you get a truck, you get a truck. That's what, I mean, and she gave out 5 or 6 fire trucks, you know, and whether that was politically motivated to gain favor with cities or votes, you know, I'll let the people decide on that one. So why Hanford needs, or people feel, or we need this Measure H, Hanford doesn't currently have a local sales tax increase. It's called just a local tax, an add-on of sorts. Hanford is one of 32 cities out of the 482 cities that still have a 7.25% sales tax. There's only 32 cities left. And currently, as I said, 86.2% of every dollar collected goes to Sacramento. But if the Measure H passes, 100% of that additional revenue stays in the city. It does not go to Sacramento. It gives us a lot more local control. If the voters feel that they would like to vote for the Measure H, we would be able to keep 100% of that money. So if we look at the breakdown of these 32 cities, 21 of them have less than 20,000 population. A majority of them in the data will show that they have less than 1,000 people in their city, and they're at 7.25. Hanford falls in the red right there. You'll see we're number 7. And we look at Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, Reddington, Camarillo. What do they all have? High real estate. What else? Freeways. I-5, 101, 405. They are able to have car lots. They have a lot of, you know, traffic going by their cities, stopping off, buying cars, buying just, you know, investing in that part of the city. Hanford doesn't. We have 198, 43. You know, it could be busy, but we don't have a lot of traffic that people stop off and use our hotels and everything like that. So they are able to keep it at that, but they have high real estate. They have, it's a very prominent areas that they're able to generate that. So once again, why Measure H? So Hanford, current general fund revenues are not meeting the budget demands. With inflationary costs, Hanford has approximately $60 million in close by Fresno, and they want to be a little bit competitive with Fresno, that they are a little bit underneath. Okay? And Clovis is running a sales tax to increase their sales tax. Do you know if it's 1%, 0.5%? It's Measure Y. They want 1%. That would put them at 8.975, just like Kingsburg. We get compared to Kingsburg. Hey, we like Kingsburg's downtown. We like Visalia's downtown. But what Kingsburg does, let's go ahead and I'm going to use Porterville. Look at Porterville at 9.25%. They're at 9.25%. Sacramento takes 6.25% of that, leaving Porterville with 3% of all of their sales tax revenue. That gets to stay locally. So you take Kingsburg's 8.975%, subtract the 6.25%, they're getting almost 3% as well that they can put back into their community, that it stays local. So that is just a visual of what's taking place. So what is going to happen on the first year? If the sales tax measure, here is what the Revenue Measure Committee decided upon. We're going to hire 8 police officers. We're going to have to get cars and equipment for those 8 police officers. We're going to have 3 professional public safety staff in dispatch records. What is CSO? Community service, okay. Officers, and the cars and equipment for them. And then we're going to be able to purchase the land and for our public safety building and put the rest of that money into reserves to actually pay for the building down the line. Also with fire, we're going to hire 3 more additional firefighters. Here's an interesting, in the 80s, when we had one fire station right across from McDonald's and Burger King on Lacey Boulevard, we had 11 firefighters. 11 firefighters in the 80s. Currently, right now, we have 9 per shift. That's 3 firefighters for every of the 3 stations. So we run a 3-0, which is 3 firefighters per station. There's only 3. So we had less firefighters now per shift than we did back in the 80s. Also, Station 4 design. We already own the property on Berkshire and Centennial, so all we need to move forward on the first year is the design. We need new and updated communications equipment for all of the stations, all 4 stations. We need improvements of the equipment and the buildings in the 3 stations that we currently have. And then we need 1 professional staff analyst. So in the first year of that revenue measure, we'll spend $11.1 million on these things. As a city council, we're only purchasing from the expenditure plan. We're not going rogue somewhere else off of the plan. The Revenue Measure Committee has made recommendations to the council. The council has committed that this is what we're going to buy with the money from this revenue measure. So let's move on to our roads, our parks. Road rehabilitation and pavement preservation, $6 million more to what is already currently budgeted would go to our roads and our pavement conditions. When you look at maintenance and emerging needs, $500,000 or $571,000 goes to 2 more code enforcement officers, equipment and vehicles, graffiti cleanup, and what we need to do to enhance that, and our historical city-owned buildings. That'll be on the agenda in a study session tomorrow. No action will be taken. It's a study session. They could give staff direction, but no formal action can be taken during that study session. But that is in the first year, $571,000. Police and fire, $11.1 million. Roads, $6 million. Maintenance and historical buildings and our emerging needs of $571,000. And when we look at parks and community services, $790,000. We're going to hire 2 park maintenance employees with equipment and vehicle to help out in improving the looks of our parks. We need a recreation coordinator for our youth programs and maintenance and improvements on any of our existing parks. Slides, water faucets are terrible. Half of the water faucets in our town are rusted in the neighborhood parks. Half of them. If you know a park that has a rusted water faucet, email me. Email me at tpayton@hanfordca.gov. Reach out to me on social media so I can put it on the list because I have a growing list. So this is year 1. I want to go into how our roads, what is the status of our roads? The Public Works Department maintains 231 miles of road in the city of Hanford. They maintain 231 miles. It's like going from here to Disneyland and maintaining all those roads in between. Right now, they have a budget for roads only is $2.5 million. You add another $6 million to that, there's a lot more that we can do. Due to the current inflationary levels, and Director Sterling mentioned that how much we used to pay for 1 million square feet of road now buys us 300,000 square feet. So the prices have tripled. The prices have tripled on our roads. And also, as the funding, what you see here in this graph is called a PCI, which is called the Pavement Condition Index. And at the beginning, the road looks really, really good. It's nice and leveled, and it's nice, thick, good asphalt. And then over time, over the age, it starts getting from good to fair to poor. And as it gets into failed, you start seeing the price of resurfacing and the reconstruction increase. So it is scaled on a 0 to 100 scale. Right now, we're at a 54 PCI out of 100. In my book, in the educational realm, 54 out of 100, that's an F. That's an F. We know that to be an F. This is unacceptable, in my opinion, but the voters will decide upon. By 2029, it will go from 54 to 47%. 47 out of 100. And then by 2034, we'll be out of 38 out of 100. That it just is going to go into that red area. It's getting close where it's definitely below poor, and it's heading right to failed. Our budget for our roads has not increased in the last 10 years. It hasn't increased. And we could say, look at our roads, and you could see that we haven't been able to. But remind you, $2.5 million is not a lot of money for the needs that we have. Pavement condition is falling quickly. Outdated technology that operates our stoplights is needing to be updated to be more efficient. The cost of materials and labor have increased. As I said, what we used to pay for 1 million square feet of asphalt now could only purchase 300,000 square feet for that same amount. We have 88 issues that we need to address, and currently right now the city does not have the manpower or the equipment to perform these large projects, which causes us to contract out at prevailing wage. So we don't have the manpower or the expertise to do these projects. Prevailing wage, does anybody not know what prevailing wage is? It's really that because the state of California says that when the cities, you have to have union jobs and provide prevailing wage, when it comes out to about 2.5 times more than the average daily wage. Its prevailing wage is 2.5 times more. So this is our current, since 2018, we were at 67 PCI. In just 5 years, we've already dropped 10 points. This just shows that our arterial streets, our residential streets are at a 51 average, and then our arterial, the main artery streets are at 62, and everything in between. Like our Grangevilles and our 11th Avenues, those are our 12th Avenues, those are our arterials, and of course our residential is at 51. It is just going in a complete decline. Let's look at our parks. I believe that we need to take care of the parks that we already have, and so we need to make sure that we focus on that. We need to work towards budgeting for the expansion of Hidden Valley Park. We need to expand our maintenance crew, and this, by doing all this, is going to improve the quality of life. And so that's where the money that is appropriated from this revenue measure, that $790,000, would be it's minimal compared to roads and definitely very minimal compared to public safety. But that's something that we need to be moving forward to improve the looks of our parks. The maintenance, additional code enforcement officers, community cleanup and abatement for code compliance, and looking at our city-owned building maintenance is where that money would go. So after 10 years, we will have our PCI back up from the low 50s all the way up to 65, but that's putting in close to $9 million into our roads and dealing with that. We would have 5 park maintenance workers and employees with equipment, 1 rec coordinator, equipment, vehicles, replacements, existing parks, maintenance improvements. Over the 10 years, that's what we will have. But let's go to police and fire. In 10 years, we'll have 12 more officers, 8 patrol, 3 heart, and 1 park resource officer, 8 professional public safety staff. Public safety building, we will have a new police station in less than 10 years, and 1 SWAT special vehicle. Firefighters, we'll have 5 firefighters, a fire station 4. We will outfit 9 staff for station 4, in addition to our 5 firefighters. Communication equipment for all 4 stations, our professional staff. We will have a training facility. That is going to help us. The training facility, 3 more fire engines, a replacement of a fire truck, and an apparatus truck. That's what you get in 10 years. This is how much it's going to be appropriated for each one. Out of that $19.2 million over the 10 years and increasing, revenue measurements of investments would collect $208 million. Almost $125 million will go straight to police and fire. $125 million. Almost $69 million would go to the improvement of our streets. Maintenance and emerging needs, code enforcement, historical buildings is $5.6 million, and our parks is $9 million, and community services, our youth programs, everything. So in this expenditure plan that the Revenue Measure Committee agreed upon, the expenditure plan was agreed unanimously, but moving it forward to council was not approved unanimously. Okay? It was the majority. I think there was 3 out of the 13 that didn't want to move it forward to council, thinking that it's not a right time right now. But in the committee, the majority won. Okay, so this is looking at that 10-year expenditure plan that they created and the prices. It would collect over $200 million over that 10 years, and this is how it's going to be appropriated out. I'm not doing percentages, I'm doing just the straight dollar amounts. Next, here is another non-negotiable that I had and I was advocating for before moving forward with this measure, was an oversight and accountability. So the council will work to develop the selection process if Measure H passes. The City Council will determine the number of members and the length of their terms. And then the Oversight Committee will work with the Finance Director. They will meet quarterly, because quarterly is when we get our sales tax revenue. And so it was like, okay, this is how much we received. What on this list do we want to, move forward with? So they will make their recommendations and then move it to the council, okay, for the final implementation of the expenditure plan. This is important as well. Hanford will have the right to overturn this revenue measure if it passed, if they do not have faith in the way the money is being spent. You could rescind this sales tax increase. You would have a campaign. The members of the community would vote upon it, and 50+1 of the voters in the city of Hanford can rescind that, dropping it down from 8.25% back down to 7.25%. Okay? So the people have that power to do so. And so my question is, every person on city council, the questions that you need to ask them for future is, are you going to abide by this expenditure plan? And also another thing, have you looked at the budget? Because if the expenditure plan does not pass, there's going to be some things tough decisions that we are going to have to do in services, cutting services. Okay? So those are things that would be my question for my city council member to make sure that, well, I am the city council, so I asked myself that. But here is a little nutshell. If I wasn't on city council, that's what I would be asking. Here's in a nutshell. We're looking at Measure H by the number. The 1% sales tax is going to be $19.2 million revenue created annually. There is a 3% possibility because in 10 years, we're scheduled to be not 60,000, but 75,000 people. That's our growth expected, 25% growth. It comes out to an investment of 44 cents a day. This is what Measure H does not apply to most groceries. The rotisserie chicken at Costco does get taxed because it's prepared, okay? Just saying. If it's prepared food, there is the sales tax on that. But if it's just, fruits, vegetables, all of that, that is not prepared, that is not taxed. Rent and mortgage doesn't have a sales tax. Utilities, most prescription drugs, medical devices and services, and other common expenses. That's the same QR code that takes you to the revenue measure. But this revenue measure from our finance director, I asked this question, how much? And it was 44 cents a day that this would be an average for the citizens of our community. With that, I'm open to questions. Adam, there's some.
Okay, well, no, we'll hold on. Let's get it. Thank you very much. Yeah. What a great presentation. I just want, thank you. Go ahead.
Stick to the facts. That's all the facts.
And I want to remind everybody to do just that. Stick to the facts. If you're making a statement, I'm going to probably cut you off if it lingers on too long. Pose your question as a question that you understand through what he's presented to you can be answered. If you're willing to just make a statement, there's other times for that.
After we're all over,
absolutely.
You can make all the
so please wait to ask your question into the mic just so it comes through for the live feed. Now, we'll take questions. Now I got to start right here.
Hi, Travis. Thank you. Now, just a quick question, because you just skimmed through it. Mm-hmm. Like, if the citizens in 5 years say, we don't want this, you're horrible people on the council, what's the process to rescinding it? You know, is it up to us to form a committee and pay our own money as citizens, or is it kind of rest on the city council as well?
I mean, obviously, you could put pressure on the city council, and I'd encourage pressure being put on city council. Hey, you have an expenditure plan, stick to it. This is what we know, this is what, so if for some reason somebody beyond me, because this is my commitment to our city, is to stick to this expenditure plan, is that just like right now, there are signs out there voting yes or voting no. That was all funds from citizens. That was nothing that the city has, you know, contributed to. So that has to be, if there was, you know, there would be a signature, you know, process. They would go through that whole process to get it on the ballot. And then once it's on the ballot, then, and the signatures have been approved, it would go to the people to vote, and it would have to be a 50% plus one.
So again, it's on the citizens to form a committee and raise money for whatever the cost may be.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. There's the one in the very back.
Okay. What, Travis? You want me to go to the one in the very back now?
She was the first one to raise her hand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mayor. I got it, man. I'm on it.
I was just being fair. Just being fair.
He saw that hand go up, and that's the teacher in him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi. So you briefed over this very quickly, but I wanted to ask you, what would happen to the city's budget for the next, let's say, 4 years until the next election period if the measure does not pass?
If the measure does not pass, we have to wait a year before we bring it to the voters again. So if it does not pass, I mean, we will be starting in February, will be the goal setting, the two elected city council members that will be coming on after this election. We will have a goal setting session in February. Then after February, we see the goals, city staff goes back. It's a policy of the city that they must bring a balanced budget to the council. They have to bring a balanced budget. So they will look at what our projected revenues are, and they will make cuts, and they will present the city council with that budget. And then we go through, we meet in study sessions with each director in their departments and looking over their specific budgets. I will be honest to tell you, I've gone through every single line of the budget. I pulled Chris Tavares, our finance director, and I said, what is this money spent on? What is this much? What is this? What's professional and legal services? Why is it here, here, and here? You know, I mean, I've gone through every single item, every single line item of the budget. And I want to, because I said line item, where does this go? Where it goes in the general fund, but on its own Measure H line item. That line item, those funds only go into that line item, and it shows underneath what was spent with that. And so there has to be that accountability. It's not just going to float everywhere else, okay? It has to be on that line item, okay?
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, but one to tie to what Christine asked.
One at a time, and then we'll come back to you. Okay.
Well, I was going to kind of ask along the lines of what Christine asked, because there was something in either the resolution or the ordinance saying that the city council with a 4/5 vote could also reverse it. So
yes, that could be too. Yes.
So I
forgot about that. Sorry.
Yeah. So if it's not needed anymore, then the city council could vote it out.
Thank you.
So I just wanted, okay. Then my question is, and I was looking at the budget categories, the percentages, and they kind of look similar to what the 24-25 budget expenses look like as far as police, 43%, fire, 19%, engineering, streets, 12%. My question is, should this pass if you've got the Measure H separate, and if it passes, then there's going to be extra money once the capital projects are spent. So what's going to happen with that extra money for the capital projects after that's spent? And then also for salaries, if there's a lot of money in Measure H money, but the current budget is going to be underwater according to what we're being told. So if there's not enough money coming in for the current budget and it's time to increase salaries, but there's not enough in the normal budget, current budget, what happens then?
What happens, and I think, well, for me, at year 5, that revenue measure committee, whoever has been selected to be a part of that revenue measure committee, needs to start planning 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So we're always planning and having 10 years in front. And so we have that future. You know, our logo says,
Is there going to have how will the city reconcile a reduction in regular general fund money in relation to
in there? Because when you have your, like say we purchase the land on the first year, second year we don't have to purchase the land. So we have that money to be used in other areas in that category. And so we cannot, there has to be that level of accountability that has to be audited. It has to go through public, you know, putting it out into the city website, onto the newspaper. This is how much we collected. This is where all that money went every single time. And it's not going to, if you have a police officer or a firefighter or an employee that was hired under Measure H funds, that's the funding source. It's called categorical programs, like in schools, that if you have certain funding from the state that purchase like counselors in our school, you know, once that funding goes, that decreases, they have to make the decision, how are they going to make it up in other areas? So it has to, the Measure H, the officers that are under Measure H, they have to be funded solely by Measure H.
That's a long stare. Is there
No, I'm just like making sure. I was just trying
All
to
right,
read.
okay.
I didn't know if he was going to ask a follow-up or if he
I'm
was
going to have to run back there if he does.
Oh, okay. You have the microphone.
You addressed part of the issue. The issue is the non-Measure H general fund money. Okay, let's say it was $100.
So you're saying that it's short.
Yeah, if the non-Measure H general
Everything that is
fund money
funded from
goes
that
down.
non-Measure H, they're going to have to make a decision on what they need to appropriate those funds for.
Okay, so there will be no commingling.
There's no commingling.
There'll be no shell games.
It is my understanding that there is no commingling because this is going straight from the expenditure plan. The Measure H money is going to be based off the expenditure plan. We'll have an audit, and we will have that accountability from the oversight committee that money that is collected, because some years we might be, because as our population gets increases, that sales tax revenue from Measure H will not be 19.2 million, it might be 21 million. And if we tackled all of year 5's goals for this year, we're going to move down to year 6 and get it done in year 5 if we have that extra. But also it goes in the reverse. Instead of that 19.2, we have 18 million. Oh, we're unable to hire that, that analyst for the fire department, not this year, but maybe next year. We will have that, and that will be at the top of the list. So everything on the purchasing is going to go from that expenditure plan.
So there's no shell games between non-Measure
I will fight.
H.
If there is a shell game, I'm going to fight it because I don't play it that way, and that's not what we told the people. That's my thing. I'm not into shell games. Oh, Kevin, I was going to you, but he.
No, I got Bob here. The blood runs to his hand. He raised it up so long.
Bob, member of the Revenue Measure Committee? Yes, Bob.
Mayor Payton, I have a question since we're talking about city finance. Since we're speaking about city finance, hope that's loud enough. Anyway, what is the investment portfolio balance at this time?
I was prepared for your question. I already
but I'm not
I have your
finished.
answer because I talked to Chris Tavares today and he emailed me.
I didn't know I was going to ask it.
You know, but I thought you were, and I'm going to say it right there. It's question number 11 that I asked him.
Okay, and let me ask you, how much money each year should we hold in review, and for how many years? I understand like 3 years in reserve, is that right?
Yeah.
Approximately 3 years, I've heard it's 3 years of reserve, which might be like $50 million.
No,
And-
but okay, keep going.
Okay, and of that 100 and maybe 20 million that we have in investment portfolio, in the event that this measure fails, is there a way to use some of those funds to make up for the shortcomings that we might have at that time? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you, the city of Hanford is $123 million. The majority of that money is restricted. We have our general fund, but we also have enterprise funds for our wastewater, sewage, water, treatment plants, all of that stuff, the refuge department. Those are the restricted funds. Currently, we have unrestricted funds is $10.5 million, which is the council prior to us established that that's going to be the general fund reserve, and they want the general fund reserve to be at 35%. This $10.5 million is only 22% of that general fund. So when we are budgeting, we are also budgeting, our staff is budgeting, putting money into that general fund. Those unrestricted funds cannot be used for general fund. Anything dealing with general, $3 million, only $10.5 million is unrestricted. That's our savings account for the city. And so that can be used, that $10.5 million can be used for something, but do we want to use all of our savings account? And you know, what happens if we fall short? And this year in our fiscal year, we were $900,000 short. And so we had to appropriate money from our reserves to fulfill our obligations for the rest of the year, for the fiscal year. But we do have, I was shocked, I asked the same question that you, I was like, what is this money? You know, and so 3 months ago, we had $118 million. So over these last 3 months, we increased $5 million in just interest off of this $123 million. I called up the vice mayor from Visalia and I said, what is your unrestricted funds? And what are you, they're at $600, $700 million in their unrestricted funds. So, I mean, it is for, you know, if all hell breaks loose in our infrastructure, we have the money there to start working on it. Okay? Thank you for that question.
Next question here.
So glad I prepared for that one. I don't know, Kevin, I don't know if I'm prepared to answer your question.
I have a two-part question. The first question is, what is the City of Hanford's annual budget?
$43.7 million.
Okay, so we're going to tax another 50%. Would that be 50%, close to 50% on top of that?
Well, with this 1%, it would increase our budget by $19 million, which is about 47%. Yes. But there is a plan how that money would be spent. Yes.
All right, as a lead-in, in 1913, the income tax was created, and we were promised as a country that it was only going to apply to the top 1%. Can you cite a single city in the valley that ever rolled back a sales tax increase?
No.
Thank you.
I haven't done my research on that, but I will say no, I can't answer that question. Yes, yes.
Next question.
Hello.
Hi, Denisha.
Can you explain how it works with the city manager with his $50,000 discretionary, how he's able to use $50,000 per project to his discretion? Will that use that money?
If it doesn't coincide with what that $50,000 is like if they're purchasing, for instance, communication equipment for the fire department, and it's under, like say Station 1, they're purchasing that equipment, and that equipment costs $47,000. It doesn't have to come to council for council approval on that. He can just, because it's on the expenditure plan, he can go ahead with his signature and go ahead and pay for that and move forward. Everything on Measure H is coming from that expenditure plan.
So he can't spend any of it?
It's been already appropriated. It's already been told by the Revenue Measure Committee. Now, like we see that there is a need in year 6. I mean, we're planning out, the Revenue Measure Committee planned out, and Revenue Measure Committee members, feel free to interject in any way, but we planned out. And so by year 7, we're like, we don't need 12 police officers. We need 15 police officers. Because our city and growing and all that stuff, we're going to have to adjust that and make a recommendation to the council to, I would say, increase that. I wouldn't be to decreasing it. Let's put it that way.
Okay, another question is, you had posted all of the links to get into contact with the city, but
on social media.
Yes, on social media, but all of their comments are turned off. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't hiring Brian Johnson, wouldn't he be the one that was responding to those comments?
I'm not going to talk about HR issues. I disagree with that. That's why on my Facebook page, I allow for comments, because I feel that I do not agree with that, but I'm not doing day-to-day operations.
Right.
It is something that as a council, we could have a future agenda item saying that we need to have comments on our social media pages, and we could direct staff to do that.
I see, perfect.
But Brian Johnson, our communications manager, he's the one that runs all the Facebook pages and all the social media pages for the city.
Okay, and then my last question, of course, I'm going to bring Crash into it, but just wondering what money is going to be delegated towards the canine program, because they are in need of kennels at the department and shade for their cars when it's triple digit, and then also vehicles so that all of the canine dogs can be safe in a vehicle, and also the liability for the city. So just curious of that.
Okay, and that's something that is a great question for Chief Huddleston, because she's the one that brings forward with the police budget. So she brings forward with the police budget, and so having those meetings with HPOA or Chief Huddleston and, advocating for that when we go through our goal setting sessions, we could be talking to her, but she brings that budget towards us.
So Measure H is not, it doesn't include any of that? Is that?
No, because
okay.
Measure H is the 8 police, the cars and the equipment, but it doesn't say anything for canines in Measure H.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Next question here.
Mr. Jordan.
Yes, in looking at the Measure H City of Hanford text measure provided by the city, it says Hanford has approximately $60 million in deferred capital projects. What are those projects?
I thought there was more than $60 million in projects, but the capital projects are some of the projects like the new police station. You have if there is improvements to parks, if there is improvements to fire stations, all of that. Fred, you want to elaborate?
Well, capital improvements is things like buildings and even roads probably, but it's not people. So capital is structures. It's not labor or anything like that. So it's really that's focused on the 60 million. So
what are those projects? Buildings.
I'll be honest with you, those projects, they're on the website. I don't have the list. I know that we have discussed them and went over those capital improvement projects. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't have it, but I know it's on the website.
So buildings are planned to purchase or pay for the land, et cetera, and we budget so much every year for a certain period of time to accomplish that. Is that correct?
Say that again.
So in the budget, capital projects are a long-term plan in order to set aside funding for a number of years to accomplish that project. Is that correct?
That is correct. There is the capital improvement projects go out for 5 years. They go out for 5 years. And so there's times that we don't have the money for that, so it gets postponed and gets shifted over, to the next year, And those are projects that have been deferred multiple times because we don't have that $60 million to fund those projects.
So my final question regarding this area, then prior to Measure H, in the capital projects or buildings, is the police department listed in those projects?
No, because police departments usually for the impact fees, and the current impact fees that we have collected over all this building that we have done, collected about $100 and some odd thousand for a new police station. Our impact fees were off. And so our current impact fees with all the development on the northwest side and the houses that were being built, they would their impact fees would go towards the funds for a new police station. And at that time, and that was before my time on council, but they've collected $136,000 in impact fees for all of that. We didn't charge developers the accurate impact fees.
I'm still not satisfied with the answer.
Okay, I'll do my best to answer,
Yeah,
and if I don't, I can get you the answer.
And Travis, I appreciate you putting yourself in harm's way.
And that's okay. And I'll tell you, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to let you know I don't know the answer.
I appreciate that. My point is, we've been talking about building a new police department for 20 years plus. Why hasn't that been put in capital projects, even knowing that the builder's fees was not enough? Why wasn't that used as a process to get the money to build a police department?
And it's a great question, but I can't answer for Hillary Strauss. I can't answer for Darrell Pyle, and I can't answer for the previous councils why they didn't make that important enough to put on the capital improvement projects. I know for me, in the 2 years that I've been here, I see the importance because people have said this is a 35-year problem that we've had, that we have not, invested much into our city as much as possible. And so that's why I see it as an important, and the council that my council colleagues see that it's important to put it into the capital improvement project. But I can't answer for the previous city managers who made those decisions and the councils who approved the capital improvement projects at that time.
So I would just ask, in case Measure H fails, would the next method, in order to get this building built, is to incorporate that as a capital project?
Absolutely, because right now the council has looked at our impact fees. We're looking at where we need to accurately assess those impact fees, because the impact fees, there's from a developer, just so you know, when you see a new housing development, those developers are charged park impact fees, fire impact fees, police impact fees, road impact fees. And so because if they're building the development, they need to also fund for the roads. They also need to have some of that money go in for police and fire and the parks that they have. So we're going back as a council and we're notifying, and I'll be honest, I'll give kudos to Mario and Chris Tavares. They're the ones that noticed that unequitable assessments of the property, the impact fees, and so that's why they're bringing it to the council to make those decisions so we can accurately give the proper fees so we can build those police stations. If it doesn't, it's going to take a while, yes, but.
All right, next question here.
Mr. Berkshire, thank you for serving on the Revenue Measure Committee as well.
The Oversight Committee.
Yes, sir.
That is going to be put in place, thank you. What kind of teeth are they going to have to force the city into doing and holding within those parameters. This is what this money is designed for. You spend it there. And
What kind of teeth do you think they should have?
I think they should be able to fire
What?
who's ever not doing it.
You mean-
Who's ever not.
Who's who?
Well, you know what? I'm going to have to say Mario.
Well, the city council is, Mario works for the city council.
Correct.
So
Correct.
the city council is
So-
the only one that could fire a city manager or hire a city manager.
Correct. So I would think that the city council should say, hey, this money is not being spent for this and for that.
So you mentioned the revenue measure oversight committee.
Right.
So
What kind
you
of
want-
teeth do they have?
You want them to be able to fire.
I want them to
But that's not
put
part-
enough
that's-
pressure on the council to be able to do something about it.
Please do, because I know for me personally, and I don't know for whoever gets elected to, that I'm not going to speak for other council members or future council members, but for me, I'm going off of it. Remember, those were my two non-negotiables. And I will use every power that I have to make sure that we go off of that expenditure plan.
Okay, what
because
kind of-
that's what we said to the public, and that's what I think that needs to be done.
What kind of power do you have then?
What kind of power do I have? I'm a part of the council. I'm one vote of 5, but I will. I could be loud. I could have a loud mouth. You want shark teeth? All right,
Next question here.
Mr. Thayer.
Yeah, thank you, Travis, for being here. So back to the reserves. You said, was it like 128 million?
In our investment
In
portfolio,
your investment portfolio.
it's
So
123 million.
So 123 million, and you suggested that 10.5 million of it is discretionary.
Yes.
So what is the other? So there's a $113 million of discretionary or non-discretionary funds.
Non-discretionary, restricted.
Or restricted. What does that specifically go to? And I think depending on what your answer is, then I have a follow-up question.
Okay. All right. So there is a lot of investments that we have in that investment portfolio that is restricted. Majority of that is enterprise funds. Those enterprise funds for our water, our sewage, our refuge, all of those are the restricted funds, and they're dealt with the enterprise funds. The general fund portion of that is that 10.5 million that is our savings account, our reserves, that is unrestricted, that we could use at any time.
So with that, if these other funds are water, sewage, and whatnot, then why the increase in our utility bills over the course of time? Clear back to 3 or 4 councils ago, 12 years ago at least. There began an implementation of our utility fees. I mean, literally skyrocketing. I was telling Kevin, it was $40 back then, and now it's $90 for a single residential home. So I'm curious then that under a management structure, when we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars here, then why isn't those dollars being tapped to already put it back into the pockets of us that are helping to support this city through utility rates and everything else? So that's the second half of the question.
Fred's laughing and I'm laughing. We're laughing at each other because Fred asked a similar question and we sat at his dinner table having a conversation about the utility fees. Now, the utility fees, we have 18,900 homes that use our utilities. And so those utility fees that are charged are for the services that are provided. The cost that it is for our sewer, our refuge, everything. So when we look at our garbage truck, every time that you see a garbage truck, we spend about $1,000 per day on tipping fees per garbage truck. So we are looking at $65 per ton to tip. Each of those garbage trucks have 10 tons in them. Plus, they do more than one trip to the recycle or the refuge place out on Hanford Armona Road and Highway 43. So, and I hope I'm answering your question, is that the citizens with their utility bills, they have to, on those expenses, Now, when it comes to infrastructure, there's a portion of the utility bills are for future construction or infrastructure needs, but not the majority of it. There's also, we had a Zenar, was it Zenar? The meters. The company that the city used to put all the meters on our homes was defunct, and that was before myself on council. And that was like $10-15 million that was spent by our previous councils to put the water meters. They started going, and that's why some of your bills say estimated on, because they're not giving the accurate totals. So we as a council decided to go with a different company to put in over the next 2.5 years, where everybody in the city is going to get new water meters to accurately, and so that is something that was paid by the utility increase.
So then with that, final question, I promise I'll be quiet.
No, I'm just making sure I'm answering your question.
No, it's good. So the enterprise dollars, who determines that? Does this local city council determine what goes into what you called an enterprise dollar versus, or is it the state of California? What determines that? And if it's the council that determines that, then what prohibits them from undoing what they've done to create the direction that the cash is flowing in the city and not open it up to hit these things, like Sheriff Jordan said, new police department or whatever the other needs are? Why can't the council redirect these enterprise dollars elsewhere?
Well, we can't cross-pollinate here, in a sense. We cannot use enterprise money collected for enterprise funds. We cannot use it in the general fund, as well as we can't use general fund dollars that go for police, fire, parks, and roads. We can't go ahead and use those enterprise funds. We could use our gas tax money for roads that we add, and we could do some infrastructure, but we cannot, it would be like, for instance, on the, man, you're giving me good questions.
I know.
Here.
So then why can't? So I understand general fund dollars, and I completely understand general fund dollars. So let's just pretend general fund dollars there's no such thing as general fund dollars. Okay. That now you line item enterprise dollars to fund 8 police officers, 8 police cars.
But you can't use enterprise funds.
That's who makes
the
that
state.
That's okay. Then that's the
state.
question. Thank you. That's
Gosh,
what
that
I'm
was
asking.
so. Why didn't I think of that? Thank you.
Next question here.
Kevin.
Back to the oversight committee having teeth question.
Sure.
Are they going to have any control over department heads on what is being spent on, what the department heads are spending their money on when it comes to police cars, fire engines? Are the oversight committee going to be able to go out and get bids, or are the department heads going to buy whatever they want?
The oversight committee makes recommendations to the council, and it's to the council to make those decisions. That's why who you elect as a council to represent you on the council is important. Make sure that they know, and make sure you vet those city council members, because they will be, when it was brought to us. Okay. Yes, Martin.
No. Next question here. Hey, Mayor, you're not calling the questions, buddy. Sorry, man. Hey, do you see this is the 1776
I'm
show
seeing
here.
how many arrows have missed me.
None. You're doing an amazing job. Amazing job. Next question right here.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I have a question pertaining to the finance. And our investment portfolio seems to be doing very well.
For now, yes, absolutely.
Yes. I would think that the city owning 1,600 acres out by Stratford.
You got to talk this way, not this way.
There you go. Okay. The city owning 1,600 acres out at just east of Stratford into 14th and Laurel. That acreage seems to me should be sold. I know it goes back to the enterprise fund for the storage farm and so forth. Seemed like that money or that value of that property would do better in an investment portfolio than being rented out to the farmer. It appears to me. I know it's rented for about 5 years, but I just don't understand why I know why they have it, but the reason they have it failed. So therefore, we ended up with 1,600 acres that we shouldn't be owning. We should get rid of that land. Okay. That needs to come up to be discussed so that when that
The individual that is renting also in the city council agenda talked about that they're putting wells on that property, and they're putting that of their own money, and they're putting that investment. Personally, I see it as advantageous for the city to sell that 1,600, because just to draw a pipeline from our wastewater treatment plant out to that 600 it's going to be too expensive. I mean, that's in the back of my mind. I agree with you that we need to look at that and reconsider it. Right now, that land was not up to par. The farmer that's adjacent to it, that is doing a wonderful job in the upkeep of that, and that could be a decision of the council in the future whether we choose to sell it or not.
Well, as a member of the public, I think it should be sold, because the city is not in the real estate business.
Duly noted.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Hey, listen, we're about almost done. I have 4 people in line with questions already. I've got 4 people in line.
And I will say afterwards.
You would be number 5. Mr. Jordan would be number 6. Okay, listen. So we want to consider. If you have not asked a question yet, I'm going to put you first right now.
My wife and I brought 2 cars because she knows that I'll probably asking questions, and so she's like.
Just know that is the order I'm going in. If you've already asked a question, if there's time, I will get to you. But I will go to people who have not asked questions yet.
Andrea.
How are you doing?
I just like saying the name. Andrea.
All right. So, question for you regarding the possibility to. First, let's discuss. You might want to cover the need of having funds available in case you are applying for a grant. And can you explain what would be the line of thought if we actually qualify for a grant to fulfill some of those items that were on the list? What would be the process in that case? Because we can pay that from grants instead of from the revenue.
All right, so I think this is what you're asking for. If there is, let me go back to our list right here. Like, say for public safety, if there's some public safety grants that we're able to do, but that requires matching funds. So let's say that we have an opportunity to get this $10 million grant, but they're like, we need you to match that grant. We could utilize some of these funds, like for the police building, for the public safety building. We could use that public safety, this Measure H, as a match, and where we could use our money more wisely, and we could use it and open it up where, hey, if the state is going to kick in $10 million, that's going to take off the overall police station. We can match it with the $10 million. We could do that. So we could have the ability to do matching funds, and we could add more grant money to this Measure H money and go to.
Which is something that we can't do right now.
We can't do right now because we don't have the money to do it. Yes, thank you. Where is, okay, yes, John.
All right, 2 small questions. With the police and fire going to them, what percentage of raises are they going to be going to get? And I think what we're all asking for the oversight committee is every expenditure that's funded from Measure H, is the oversight committee get to go through every expenditure?
Yes.
Every single one.
That's what their role is to make those decisions, to recommend to the council what directions that they want to go and what they're going to tackle.
And then on top of that, when we buy equipment, say fire trucks, cars, are we trying to get the top of the line, the Cadillac of each one of these items? Are we going to look for something that's great but not the top line, we're overspending per item? Because I have understood that the fire trucks they got are like the Cadillac of fire trucks, and they cost a lot of money. Why can't we not get the best ones, get something that's pretty good, and then we can use that money elsewhere?
Can I just say, how fast do you want the guy to get to your house when it's on fire?
I don't think having a Cadillac between a pretty good one is going to make that big a difference. Yeah, motors the same. You can't you can't call a comment, buddy.
Just really quickly, we spend as a city almost close to $1 million just on fuel for our police and our fire trucks. Our fire trucks get 4 miles to a gallon. Our fire engines get 2 miles to a gallon. But you probably could tell me better, accurate. That's what I was told.
You're 100% correct.
Yeah, okay. Good, I'm good. I'm right on something. All right. No. Yes. And you're looking at from the ladder truck that we would purchase is 1.6 or 1.2. Is it Pierce? Pierce is the name of the truck. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
When
now
you come back to raises and all that stuff, that's something that the unions would negotiate with the city negotiator. So I can't really talk about that because I'm not a part of the union and I'm not part of the negotiation team for the city. And when they come to an agreement, then that comes to the city council for a decision.
Okay. All right. Now back to the raises, percentage of raises for the police department and the fire.
That's what I was talking about.
That's what they come to? So you don't know what it's going to be?
I don't know because that's negotiated by HPOA and the fire department union.
What's the starting salary for, say, a firefighter and a police officer in this town?
70? That's a good question. Transparency California says you go to city of or county of Kings, Hanford, it will tell you everybody's from our city manager to all the fire department to all the staff what is. You could do that
Isn't
for
this
teachers.
something that city council should know? You should know these things, right? That's a pretty common one that you and everybody else on city council should know.
I think it's around 70,000, to be honest with you. But I can't give you an exact number. Cadet starts at 44, Hanford?
We have a huge problem with staff retention because we're not paying enough.
Okay. That's it?
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take this. It's going to be our last question.
Kimber.
Hi. We definitely need funds for police, fire, and a lot of these things, and I completely agree with that, 100% or 110%. But a concern that I have is, just a few weeks ago in this room, I expressed not wanting to take and have HIA funds turned over to Main Street. And within 24 hours, and both you and Martin Devine were in the room whenever we expressed that. There were several of us that expressed concerns about it. Adam expressed concerns too. And within 24 hours, you had voted it over to turn it over to Main Street. And I want to take a no that we can completely trust our city council.
So what you're saying is because you said and a couple of people said no,
I said it.
Okay,
What was said that night was that it needed to be discussed with downtown.
So what is your
And
question?
you did not. I'm asking, is there going to be more discussion with this here if you guys are going to deviate from what the public wants and what is set up in this? Is it going to be discussed? Is there going to be more transparency?
Well, on the oversight committee, more transparency. On the oversight committee, there will be public comment during the oversight committee. There is public comments during every city council and every study session item that's there. Transparency, it's on our social media pages, it's on my social media pages and the council social media pages. So when we're talking about transparency, we have to look at the information, discern and decipher the information, and we vote how we think is best, but taking into consideration what the people have talked to us about as well.
That was voted at one of the 4 o'clock meetings. And
no, I disagree with you. I disagree with you because what happens at a 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock study session is to provide direction. We have to, as a council, come to consensus in the direction we want council to go in. So what you might think as a vote, it is telling the council, because we are telling the city manager and the council, this is the direction that we want to go in. And we have to agree and have a majority of vote to go into that direction. We're not approving something. We're going into that given and providing that direction. Then it comes back to us. It comes back to us in a regular session, maybe the next meeting, maybe it's 2 or 3 meetings down the road. And then during the regular session, it will be discussed and voted upon. Public comment will be once again allowed, and then we will make that final vote. And what you're talking about, Main Street, Hanford, that's going to be on the consent calendar tomorrow.
so it was not set up to where Hanford Improvement Association funds are going to Main Street yet. Because what it said in the Sentinel was that it was.
Okay, well, I
Because
can't.
I wasn't at that meeting.
I can't regulate what the Sentinel puts or what people put on social media, but what I can tell you is this. We gave staff direction to start negotiations with Main Street Hanford with the mindset that we have the desire to give them 100% of the double business license tax that the businesses in downtown put into that fund. And so we told staff, get into negotiations. That is going to come back to council and tell us, like, this is what we have come. Michelle will get up there and a couple of other members saying, we think this is a good idea or this is not a good idea. We would like to go in that direction. And this is where the council then decides, hey, do we want to go with this negotiated contract that they have? Then that's what happens. So we provide directions. Yes, it's not. Yeah, let's get on the topic. But I just wanted to, yes, but it's all in the staff reports, all couple 100 pages of those staff reports, and just encouraged to look into them and read them.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I know there may have been a few questions. I apologize, but it is 8:30. Let's give our mayor a round of applause.
Thank you.
Amazing job. Hard, difficult questions. I appreciate to the topic.
Can I?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, it is the people's vote. You decide on the Hanford that you want Hanford to be. You decide and show, and all I did was show you what's currently going on. And ultimately, it's going to be, I'm going to either make sure that these revenue measure funds on council are going to be spent according to the expenditure plan, or I'm going to see that budget and say, okay, this is where cuts are going to be made. I'm going to have to, be a part with my colleagues are going to have to make some tough decisions either way and what we're going to move forward with. But it's the people who vote on that type of Hanford wants. But thank you guys once again. I'll stick around for questions if you have questions. But thank you.
All right. One more applause. Thank you, Travis.
And ballots come out October 7th.
That's right. So actually, a week from today, many of you will have your ballots in your hand. And let me close with this statement, and then I will close with a prayer for what you heard here today. Do your research. 1776 Sons of Liberty, we don't believe we know it all. All we're doing is trying to get to the truth. And so you have to do your research. Do your fact finding. Get online. Do what you got to do to find out what is the truth. And then make your vote according to what you've come up with through your own.
And I just want to say one thing.
No, I've got the mic, sir. You are not.
I am going to take a hiatus for 2 weeks. I will not be at the meeting tomorrow. My father is on his last week. And so I'm going to spend time with him and the family. And so I will be, I've already talked to the vice mayor and our council, and they will be holding the ship, the fort down. But I'm just going to, I'll remove myself from social media or anything. You probably won't hear from me for a while, but I think it's important that I spend time with my family. Okay.
Amen. Let's close in prayer. If you don't mind standing up, and if you don't know Tom Payton, you've missed out. Quite the character. Just so fun and ornery, and always has a quick little pun to get you going. But Father, I thank you for who you are, and I thank you right now that you have your hands on Tom Payton. You just touch him, encourage him, and strengthen him, Lord. Father, as he prepares to meet you face to face, someone that he knows, somebody that he's loved, someone that he's represented here on earth. Father, as you prepare to see him face to face, just encourage his family, strengthen them, let them know that this is a graduation, not an end. Father, in the name of Jesus, we just thank you for this meeting. We ask you that each person, Father, be encouraged, that each person just do their due diligence, Father, to become knowledgeable about the facts. Father, strengthen us, give us all discernment, keep us safe, and help us prepare, Father, to represent you in this election. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you all. We will be here next week. We have the water board coming. Will be our town hall next Monday. Ballots come out.